the NCAA responds to Tennessee shoving all of their chips in the middle of the table legally and from a school perspective. And that's exactly what Tennessee is doing. The NCAA responded to what, Caleb, when Virginia and the state of Tennessee decided to sue the NCAA? What's the NCAA's response? We went over to our 3:45 a.m. production meeting, but I specifically wanted to be somewhat surprised, so I tuned you out a little bit. I'm sorry about that, because there's no response that they could possibly have that would change things that would make everybody feel better. So tell me your thoughts on the NCAA's response and the main gist.
They responded basically acknowledging they want to fight that they're going to lose, because they said in their response, their quote was, while they started with the NCAA generally does not comment on specific infractions cases, because they want to make it clear that member schools and conferences not only make the rules, but routinely call for greater enforcement of the rules. Okay, if they had just said that and left it, we all would have been fine, whatever. They just have to say that because that's what they're saying. Well, did they go further and go, quote, response to the actions taken by the state of Tennessee and the state of Virginia suing the NCAA. And by the way, the lawsuit is over the fact that rules about using NIL to recruit is a violation of the Antitrust Act because it limits the amount of money players can make on the open market, which is factually true. So the NCAA responds with, quote, this legal action would exacerbate what our members themselves have frequently described as a Wild West atmosphere, further tilting competitive imbalance among schools in neighboring states and diminishing protections from student athletes from potential exploitation.
So to be real clear, here's what Tennessee is saying. Tennessee is saying we never knew the rules. So how were we to know if we were breaking them? I said, and I will stand by, that if you want to retroactively punish somebody, you can, and you have every single right to do that. I equated it to a speeding ticket. However, there are going to be too many incidents to go back and clean all of this stuff up. And you pick Tennessee, the one school who is exemplary. But the bottom line is, at the end of the day, you do not have the ability to go after a 17-year-old because he's a high school athlete. In this case, it would be potentially Nico. We've heard about his flight. You don't have the ability in the land of the free and the pursuit of happiness, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You don't have that. And you can't tell a young man that he can't go out and get what he's worth. If you tell, I don't believe for a second Spire Group was taking Nico and shopping him around to other places. They're a Tennessee collective, and that's what they should be. But that's what they argued. But nevertheless, if he needs to use the Spire Group to fly to Tennessee to see what he's worth at 17 years old, I'm sorry, that's America. That's where we have been. And I know this is a vast, different change in philosophy for a lot of our listeners. It's not for me. These guys have deserved more from the get. The irony to me, Caleb, is that I believe this would have all settled itself out. So the NCAA goes and they get their shovel and they start saying, we're going to dig up what you've done with prospects before they were actually college athletes. That's what we're going to do, right? That's our goal. But there's so much of it out there, they can't enforce it. Plus, at the end of the day, what they're trying to do is illegal. Because even if they're 17 and they're prospects, many states allow these guys to get NIL agreements, and there's no way you can stop it right now on the federal level. Your thoughts, Caleb, and I want to remind you that when it comes to the best giveaways, the best design, brand, market products you can possibly have, a one-stop shop for all the brand supply products, not just clothes. It is Apex Apparel Group. Go to your Apex Apparel Group, or just call Tyler, 865-919-3001, 865-919-3001. And we got a special piece of merch coming out that will be in response to Tennessee taking on the world and the NCAA and being a favorite, in my opinion, Caleb.
Yeah. So what the for those who want a TLDR version of what the NCAA said,
What's a
what they
TLDR version? You getting hip on me there, kid, or what?
too long didn't read. Too long
Okay.
didn't read. So the TLDR version of what the NCAA is saying is this. You schools want us to police NIL. You complain about the Wild West of NIL all the time, and now that we come down on a school for NIL, you want to sue us over this? That's their response. Now, here's Josh Payton had a great tweet last night. I want to send him a shout out. And he said the NCAA released the exact quote. I'm actually going to show it. The NCAA's response is them hoping that we're all dumb enough to start a book at chapter 2 because chapter 1 was them being an utter disaster at designing the structure they were tasked with creating. Exactly. They want us all to forget how incompetent they were at getting out ahead of NIL and then trying to address this from an actual effective perspective in an effective way. And now they want to say, oh, you guys are hypocrites because you want us to try to level the playing field with NIL. And now you're mad that we're going at Tennessee for doing that. Well, you're ignoring what you did before it got to that point, which is you guys passed a lot of rules that were in violation of federal law and that were wildly inconsistent, and then you retroactively enforced rules.
Listen, you got embarrassed is the bottom line. Mark Emmert looked like a blithering idiot. I mean, let's be real honest. When he left, by the way, that Apex Apparel group, Tyler at 865-919-3001, 15% off your first order. That's with giveaways and uniforms, but definitely can outfit your business as well. They got embarrassed. Mark Emmert got spanked. He had a exit stage left. And here's what the NCAA did, talking to a source you may not know about a year ago. They beefed up their enforcement staff by almost double. So they felt miffed that they're no longer a big part of the decision-making process. I mean, let's face it, the College Football Playoff Committee is now important than the NCAA, and that's exactly what happened. I can see it so clear, sitting in an office thinking this is our last chance to get our reputation back. Why do I see so clear? Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Haun. I've had LASIK. Enjoy life better when you see better. No contacts, no glasses. Local vision service for LASIK, cataract surgery, and regular eye examination. ccteyes.com, ccteyes.com. And let me tell you this, Caleb. I don't blame them. Because if things go the direction that they were already going, they're an inconsequential institution anyway, other than putting together a basketball tournament. And I think you and I would agree we could figure that out in a long weekend. So why not battle? Why not fight? Why not leak to Pat 40 that you're going to investigate the University of Tennessee? I mean, I think it's stupid because I think you shook up a hornet's nest. Even just investigating them is stupid. But by the same token, yeah, if you got an engine that's about to blow and you're on the last lap of the Daytona 500 and you know that engine is going to blow before or after the starter finish line, you might as well keep your foot to the floor and go as fast as you can. And if it blows, you lose, but maybe you cross the finish line and win. That's not going to happen. But what's the other choice? The engine's going to blow at some point.
It's basically, on another way, it's 4th and 35 from your own 12-yard line, but there's 30 seconds to go in the game and you have no timeouts left and you're down by 4. You got to go for it, right? So, I mean, you gotta.
Well, yeah, but I like I mean, not to compare analogies. I like mine a little bit better because there is impending disaster. Like even if you get across the finish line, that car is going to blow because it's low on oil at some point. That engine's shot forever. You're not taking it to Richmond the next week. So that's why I like that analogy. But no, you're right. I mean, when it's a Hail Mary, it's whatever it is. To even be in existence, guys, I'm telling you, this is a step in the direction. We will be having serious talks about a mega conference, maybe not this next offseason, but by 2026, I can promise you, because once the state of Tennessee and Virginia win this lawsuit that you know they'll try to drag out, once they win that lawsuit, there's going to be a ton of schools that say, sorry, can't compete with that. Going to have to create another division. And there'll be about 32 to 38 that feel like they can. And there's your mega conference. Guys, this seems like when we talk about 2 years, that seems like a long time. But Caleb, you're old enough, and I definitely am. I remember when there were split national champions, and it seemed forever just to get the number 1 and 2 team together. Then it seemed forever to get 4 teams together. And then what's happened? It's kind of hit light speed. I mean, you've gone from 4 to 12. You've gone from all these conferences realigning, and it's going to be the Big Ten and SEC that call the shots like the AL, NL, and baseball. So, Caleb, I mean, this is actually by NCAA standards moving very, very fast.
Oh, you're right. But I'm thinking about this ahead. You talk about member schools. Okay, the NCAA is one step, and you're right. They're in the business of staying in business. But after they fold, Dave, the SEC and the Big Ten will be in the business of staying in business, because what's going to happen is you're going to see member schools with the SEC and the Big Ten say, why do we have these conferences running us when we can all just form our own collective conferences, the 38 revenue producing schools in the country, and we'll just form our own league. We don't need
form their own league together, and then there would be a TV deal among that 32. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, there'd be a TV deal among that 32. They're going to look at it and they're going to say,
what we don't want, and you would agree with this, is we don't want the Yankees where they own their own mega broadcast company and they can pay more than anybody else. Same for the Dodgers. That's what we don't want. So
no, we don't. And
whether or not it's a Big Ten and SEC TV contract or it's a mega TV contract, we definitely all want them under one umbrella. Correct.
Correct. But what's going to happen is, I mean, now I'm getting ahead of myself here, but I'm just thinking down the road. There was going to be a point where Tennessee and Alabama are like, we're tired of subsidizing Vanderbilt. We don't want them in this conference. We're tired of them being there.
I told you that a couple of weeks ago and you called me crazy.
No, I said the SEC wouldn't kick Vanderbilt out if they did it. This is why the SEC and the Big Ten are going to try to keep themselves relevant. And they're going to keep themselves relevant by holding on to the takers of the conference. And then the big schools in those conferences are going to say, why do we need these conferences? Why do we need the SEC? Why do we need the Big Ten? So Charlie Baker and the NCAA is on high alert. Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti, I think Tony Petitti is the commissioner of the Big Ten. You guys need to be on high alert too. Well, you're next.
I'm just telling you, this is why I told you that I didn't think the TV contract would prove to be as bad as you think. And I think it's because the whole thing gets blown up from the get. I think it's just like when they went from 4 to 12 and they found a way to split the TV money when everybody said, no, you've already got the contract in place for 4 years, for 6 more years. For 4 teams for 6 more years. No, you could enough money will shake that up. What's our poll question today? You got thoughts on a poll question before we get to the second part of this? And yes, I do have an Augusta sweater jacket. It's really not Augusta, but it looks fantastic.